What's up, everybody? On today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 reasons why we left Fort Myers. We did not want to leave Fort Myers, but we left. And I'm going to tell you the 10 reasons that led to us leaving the city of Palms. So when we left Fort Myers, again, it wasn't a decision we wanted to make. It was a difficult call, and there's a lot of things that I liked about Fort Myers. We were doing live streams, we were going to the beach. We were really enjoying living in Fort Myers, and after living in Alabama, it was refreshing to be back in Southwest Florida, enjoying the things that I like. However, Hurricane Ian came around and everything changed very quickly. It went from being a beautiful paradise place to being a site of destruction, desolation, and the sadness and reality of life for a lot of people changed in one day. So the number one reason that we left Fort Myers was because of Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian was the point where we decided to leave Fort Myers. It changed absolutely everything. Fort Myers was no longer this beachside town that everybody wanted to be at. It became a place of sadness, and everywhere you went was destruction. It went from an enjoyable, fun place to live to a massive cleanup effort. So Hurricane Ian was the tipping point, and it would never be the same for many years. Seems like after Hurricane Ian, Fort Myers just isn't what it used to be. Many of the things that we love and enjoy doing in Fort Myers are gone or just not quite the same for a very long time. It's not easy every day to look at stuff like this. It makes you sad. It really changes your whole outlook on life, and I want to be around positivity. Number two is angry people. Now, the people of Fort Myers are very angry. They're road raging, but after the hurricane, it became even worse. And one of the reasons we decided to leave Fort Myers is because, again, we don't want to be exposed to the negativity that some people have in their lives. A lot of the other factors that we see on this list are leading factors of why people are so angry. Living in Fort Myers is frustrating, it's angry, people are just on edge, and the hurricane was just another layer of complexity that made the people here be more angry than they were before. Some people that lost everything have decided to vent their anger and frustration at the world, and instead of accepting the reality, they're just going around spilling anger and hate throughout the community. And the anger that some people have displayed, especially after the hurricane, made it a place we didn't want to be around. Moving on to number three, long commutes. Going to Fort Myers Beach was taking us close to 45 minutes each way. Work was usually in Naples, at least an hour. And don't even get me started if you get caught on 75 during the rush hour. The commutes are unbearable. It seems like all the things you want to do are so far away from the parts of Fort Myers we could afford to live in. We ended up living in Lehigh Acres, and if you wanted to go to restaurants, go to the beach, it doesn't matter what you were doing or going to work, everything was so far away because where the residential parts are that you can afford are so far from everything else that no matter what you're doing in Fort Myers, it's far away. For being just a large metropolitan area, it is one of the most impractical places you could ever live. So in Fort Myers, commutes are a huge problem. Everything from the infrastructure that hasn't been developed here. The World According to Briggs just made a video about why people are moving to Sarasota, and one of the reasons that he mentioned is the roads and infrastructure. And now that I live in Sarasota, it makes so much more sense. You can travel across the entire metropolitan area in a very logical fashion. It makes absolutely no sense to commute to Fort Myers. I mean, you have protected wetlands in the Corkscrew area, which means if you're heading southbound, you got to get all the way to 75 or go all the way around Immokalee. Nothing makes sense. There's no real practical way of getting east to west as well. And during the peak hours of the day, everybody has to use these main roads like 75, Daniels, US 41. It leads to congestion, but more than the congestion, it's just the lack of infrastructure in Fort Myers and the fact that it makes absolutely no sense. Number four is bad pay. For some reason that I don't understand, you have the stingiest people that I have seen anywhere in the world in Southwest Florida. Now, I've traveled and I have lived in a few places, and when it comes to people being stingy and not wanting to pay, there's nothing as horrible as Southwest Florida. These people here live in a retirement community, drive 40, $50,000 cars, live in $500,000 homes, yet for some reason I don't understand, they think that your time and your work is worth absolutely nothing. It's almost like they assume that people in society are just there to serve them and no other reason. The pay in Fort Myers is so bad that a business that I had in Naples that was functioning in Alabama as well failed in Fort Myers. I had to quit. Moving on to number five, scams, frauds, and slimy people. In the time I was renting in Fort Myers, my landlord was hiring people to fix stuff like the air conditioner, water filtration system, and I was also hiring dump truck drivers to try to fill in my lot that I bought. I also needed some landscaping work on my empty lot. But it didn't matter what we tried to do, whether it's me or my landlord, everybody that worked for us either scammed us, defrauded us in some type of way or another, was slimy to the point where I was going to start trying to build a house on my empty lot where I would pull the permits, and I had to just stop doing that because everybody burned me, from the workers that I hired to the dump trucks that were supposed to bring the dirt. Everybody is slimy, grimy, trying to rip you off or defraud you. The amount of scams and frauds that you're going to encounter down here is like a school in criminality living in Southwest Florida. People are really slimy. Moving on to number six, insurance costs. So because people are slimy, grimy, and fraudulent, your insurance rates are absolutely ridiculous. We had two vehicles at one time. The pickup truck, it was a 2021 Silverado, and a 2020 Corolla Camry, whatever the crap, I don't even know. We had two cars. I can't remember what it was. No, it wasn't even that. It was whatever. For two vehicles, we ended up paying $458. When I moved to Sarasota, I was down to one vehicle, and my insurance rate went down to like $70. So that should just give you an idea of how bad the insurance costs are. And it's not just your car insurance, it's your homeowner's insurance, anything that you need to insure in Fort Myers. If you end up in a high fraud zip code like Lehigh Acres or Central Fort Myers, your insurance rates will be through the roof. Number seven is housing costs. So when we finally decided we're going to leave Fort Myers, we were looking at different options, and I could rent an apartment in the hood in Fort Myers for $1,700. Now, for $300 more, I can get a luxury apartment in Sarasota. Now you're thinking, wait, Jose, Sarasota is more expensive than Naples and Fort Myers. It is very true. Sarasota is more expensive if you're buying. Now, if you're renting, you can actually get a better deal in Sarasota because they've actually built more affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I mean luxury apartments. It's not like these are affordable, but this same apartment that I'm paying for in Sarasota for like $2,000 a month would actually be about $2,500 in Fort Myers and $32 in Naples. Here's the problem: they won't rent it to you. So it's not so much that there isn't affordable housing, it's that they don't want to give it to you. Moving on to number 8 is the traffic. Notice it's not the commute. The commute's one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is the traffic, the volume of traffic, and how aggravating people are in traffic. Traffic and commute, you get what I'm saying? They're two totally different things. Because if things were easy and accessible, it wouldn't matter if there's a lot of traffic. Crap, there's a lot of traffic here in Sarasota, but it flows. Traffic in Fort Myers absolutely sucks, and it's a huge contributing factor to how aggravating it is to live in Fort Myers. There's so many people on the roads down there, especially in the winter. I just went to pick up Dad in Naples. I was stuck on 75. I was stuck on Bonita Beach Road. I was stuck on US 41. Immokalee Road took 45 minutes. And then when I got back on 75 to head north, 75 was literally just creeping. The traffic is horrendous, and compared to Sarasota, it's way worse. Traffic down there really sucks. Moving on to number 9, no good restaurants. The dining here in Sarasota is far superior than in Fort Myers. I don't understand how a city with so much diversity and so many different ethnic groups has just horrible food. You would think of a place like Fort Myers with Cubans, Puerto Ricans, all types of different people would have some incredible restaurants, but they really suck. And it might have to do with the fact that people just can't spend any money, and that the Hispanic districts like Palm Beach Boulevard, where all the Hispanic restaurants are neighborhoods that are really in decay right now. So Fort Myers, despite having all these different groups and nationalities, should have some of the best food in the country. It really doesn't. The options for dining are really slim. We were down to like one Haitian restaurant, one Puerto Rican restaurant, and Cuban restaurants. We were going into Naples. It's embarrassing, and the restaurants and dining options in Fort Myers really suck. Moving on to number 10, construction. One of the most aggravating things that we dealt with while living in Fort Myers was the construction. I bought an empty lot that was pretty much all rural when I bought it. And in less than a year, like 3 or 4 lots that were adjacent to it were cleared to build houses. And it went from like a suburban, like tropical, natural area to like a complete suburban sprawl in a matter of 1 year. The worst part about living in Fort Myers, the worst, most aggravating crap about living in Fort Myers is the people that they find to work in these construction sites. They'll drive on your grass, they'll drop nails on the road. It's almost like they are purposely trying to be as annoying and imposing as possible. The workers on construction sites play music, they make noise, they drive on your grass. If there's anything they can do to make their presence be known on a construction site, they will. And this is possibly the most aggravating thing about living in Fort Myers. They'll start doing construction at 6 in the morning and you're still trying to sleep, and here's a bobcat, a dump truck lid slamming, you're trying to sleep, and then they start clearing the lot next door to your house. And it's just some of the most aggravating crap I've dealt with living anywhere. The noise, the dust, and the belligerent people that end up on these construction sites, and how inconsiderate they are to people around the construction site. This was likely the final factor in us deciding to leave Fort Myers. So while I really enjoyed living in Fort Myers and I really miss a lot of things like hanging out on Palm Beach Boulevard at night, downtown Fort Myers, and the beaches that are pretty much gone to this day, Fort Myers just isn't the same. And it seems that despite the fact that they put it out to be like this safe community, crime is completely out of control in Fort Myers. I'm kind of used to it, and you feel comfortable in your own environment. But I'm going to say, if you're not from Fort Myers, you're going to find that there's a lot of lawlessness. And again, I'm kind of used to it because this is the environment that I've been around my whole life. I'm kind of used to the crimes, the types of crimes, and how they occur in Fort Myers. But I'm going to say that definitely it is a lot safer here in the Sarasota area. All right, guys, those are the top 10 reasons why we left Fort Myers. I'm going to miss it, but new adventures are awaiting us here in the Sarasota area. If there's one thing about Fort Myers that I'm really going to miss, it's the vibes. I could literally just drive down Palm Beach Boulevard, go to downtown, go to the beach, and it didn't really matter. I could have an entirely packed day of activities just hanging around Fort Myers. I don't think I can pull that off here. The vibes just aren't the same, but it is what it is. It just wasn't working out. I feel like if we stayed in Fort Myers, we were never going to get ahead. You're paying a lot of money to live down there, and you're living in a bad area. You're literally not getting paid anything for your work. Insurance is expensive. Housing is expensive. It made no sense. And then on top of that, everybody's trying to burn you. You're getting ripped off left and right, no matter what you're trying to do, whether it's fixing a car or having a dump truck deliver some dirt. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's out to get you. So like, you just can't get ahead. It's like all the odds are stacked against you. Fort Myers has to be one of the most difficult places to make a living in America. Arkansas just got a new governor, and the first thing they did was talk about raising people's salaries so they can get paid more, even though housing in Arkansas is like super affordable. Meanwhile, the governor of Florida is fighting with Disney. So it's not like anybody's really trying to make life easier here in Florida. All the other states that you go to, the governors and the mayors are working to get jobs for the people, good paying jobs, despite the fact they have low cost of living. Well, meanwhile in Florida, Disney is the problem. It's not the fact that rents are $2,000 a month, commutes are like 50 miles each way, and people want to pay you that $10 an hour. No, that's not really the problem in Florida.